Welcome, Polytopians. I imagine most of you will be here because you're familiar with the game, but what you may not be familiar with is this new weekly challenge. So I've been playing for the past 9 weeks, but if you're here for the first time, you'll probably just see the entry league and a list of all the people who have played so far. Then by playing, you'll get to take part in the game for the week, which is the same map and seed for every player, and you have 7 chances across each of the days to get the maximum score you can. So I've currently progressed through the leagues, which work by the top third being promoted and the bottom third being demoted. So once you get out of the entry league, you'll be able to see all of the others. And I'm currently sat in position 18 in the Gold League. Now, what I think is really neat is being able to watch a replay of your best score for that week. So this is currently my game for today, which I got a better score than on Tuesday. And as well, after the week is finished, you'll be able to go back and see the leaderboard and the best replay for the best player in the world. So that's what I'll probably do tomorrow and compare my play to them. But for now, let's hop right in and see what I did. Okay, so straight off the bat, you can see me starting with a classic Bardo beginning. And one thing to note is that you know exactly what the map is going to look like from the moment you start after the second day. So once you've played the first time, you can then go and watch your replay and you know exactly where all the continents are, where all the other bots start. And the other thing that is useful for the early game that becomes less apparent down the line, but if you play the exact same way, because it's the same seed, the bots are going to react in the exact same way as well. So there are weird nuances. So if when I upgraded I did this animal first before this one, as I think I did, then it would give a different outcome to if I do this one first and then that. So you can bear that in mind if you're trying to repeat the exact same set of moves because you like the way the bots have reacted. Bear in mind that the order matters even if the outcome of that is the same regardless of order. So for the first few moves, I think I just played the same way I did, knowing that I'd be able to capture this city here by Amanji stupidly going in and just letting me capture that. So yeah, classic Bardo starts. Then Amanji rider comes in, gives me the stars I need to get my own rider, and then I'm able to hop on, getting that extra vision here. Then we've got Hoodrick and Amanji, who I think go and just boink each other. Yep, making it easy for us because they're both on low HP. Then here I made the decision not to hit the warrior, so I could have these on higher HP because I know I can take this city first. Another rider. And then here Amanji play a funny play. They go onto the village, but then know that I can take it, so they move out. So I'm in a situation where I played the same way in the first 3 turns as before, so I knew this city was open. And I could have told that even if I didn't know that because of the way the flames were on. Let's do my point of view. I saw that it was being sieged here, and then the Amanji rider must have bounced off. So I knew this was open. But in order to get to it, I had to bounce off this guy, so both weakening him and allowing me to get there. I don't think I could have moved straight here and then on because of zone of control, so I had to bounce off the warrior. Which is exactly what I do, get the city, and then go onto the mountain because I don't want the rider to come back and take it, so I hit the rider to weaken them. Hoodrick and Amanji just taking themselves out and making things nice for me as I get a lighthouse in the process because of taking climbing. So climbing hit there isn't a great choice for eco, but it allowed me to hit the rider and get the lighthouse. I think my other play here would probably have been going for maybe using forestry. So I'd taken forestry, but use it in a better way. But I know that next turn I'll have the stars to get level 3 here because of the lighthouse. Then Hoodrick are annoying here and make a siege, but it's fine, I can take it back. And I move on to the ruin. Do some upgrading and recover my units so I can take the city back. And then get roads from this, which is weird because when I did it before, I thought I got archery, so I was expecting that. But it goes to show, if you play the game in a different way, the randomness will be different, and in that case it gave me roads instead of archery. Sometimes with ruins, when you know the seed, if you played before and say you knew it was going to give you roads, you could have bought roads, and then it may have given you trade. I don't know if the randomness works in that way, but I think I've experienced that before, when I know it's going to pick this branch. So I've got the tier 1 tech, I know it's going to give me a tier 2, so I buy the tier 2 and then I get the tier 3 for free. But that's only if I think that the star difference and the value of the tier 3 tech is going to be worth it. So in this case I was expecting archery, got roads, but it's fine. I don't think I end up using them too much apart from connections in the future, but we'll see. And we have a Kiku scout who's gone and hit us. So Kiku doing quite well for themselves. They're ahead of me on score and close to wiping out Yadak. Make the siege. And do some upgrading. Scouts getting annoying again. And help Hudrik siege my city. But it's all fine, I've got a good army of riders. Then there, that scout, I believe, just moved on to a village, that's right. So I would have liked to get there before, but I think it was important to take this continent first and then get on the water later. But yeah, it does mean I'm worse off navally, and they've managed to get all 3 starfish, which I believe were there before. Oh, maybe not. Oh, I guess it's because I don't have... There we go, those 3 starfish, they managed to pick up all of them. Yeah, it was because I didn't have the tech to see them. So here, I'm in a position where I've got a bunch of units who are close to being veteraned. Notably this one and this rider. So I decide to take out the warrior with the wall using the 10 HPs first, and then getting a veteran warrior here. Do a few connections for eco. Annoying I can't get this completely. I think I chopped a forest there that I had at the beginning, so it would have been nice if I didn't need to do that and I could have got a level 3 with that forest, but it's fine. And I've got a lot of units on low health, so I start recovering some of them. Okay, get org for the sake of eco and make several connections. I need one more city if I want to get the network monument. And it's Yadak there who's making a comeback, though I have a feeling they're not doing very well at all. Oh, okay. Nope, they're doing alright for themselves. So end up having to use a port to get that, which is not ideal at all. Again, here I wouldn't have known if it was worth it to get border growth, but having played before, you see that there's 3 fish here, as well as a chance to go from a level 2 to a level 4 sawmill, so that's absolutely worth it. Then just standard plays for me here, getting vision, not for the sake of not knowing where things are, but more for the sake of being able to see where their units are. And I get my first level 5, which I get a giant with, and get a giant in both. Yadak and Kiku fighting themselves, which is brilliant. I get another lighthouse, and kick them off the village. Yeah, they're not great, but I knew they'd take me anyway. If I hadn't have hit them, the 10 HP could have just taken out my ship anyway. Get a level 3 in the new city. Giants on the water. Kiku doing Kiku things. And they're currently on 3 cities. Sending my giants in. And I can see that Kiku have chivalry, which is interesting. So they've done, yeah, very well tech-wise. Here, the reason I chopped and put my sawmill there instead is because I thought that way I could get a market, which I think I end up doing in the future. Whereas if I'd gone here and used those 4, I wouldn't have had space for a market. And that city ends up giving me a lot of giants and parks anyway. Okay, speaking of which, I get a park here. Send in units and make a siege and get ramming so I can take the others. Really stupid of me, I left this open. I should have skipped a warrior here and gone there instead, but it's fine, I only lost 4 stars from that. So not ideal, but not the end of the world. Though these are a lot of the mistakes. You'll see plenty of mistakes that I make. I make generally a decent job of it. Amazing explorer here, which gets me my explorer monument. But yeah, I do make several stupid mistakes, and I think that's what separates me out from Old Tor at the top, who's optimizing as much as possible. And that's ultimately what it was about. You're able to play the earlier days, just instinct Polytopia, however you feel. And then, by watching replays like I'm doing, analysing myself, if I had further days to do this, I'd know to play a warrior there to defend. I know that the bots play in a stupid way and I can exploit them, however. So there's a lot that you can learn from watching your own replays, which I'd recommend. Yeah, I didn't know exactly what happened because somehow it went down 2 population. I was confused at the time. I'm interested to see what happened. So it was on 3. I'm lost 1 clearly because is that the capital? Oh, this was the capital. That makes sense. Okay, this was the capital. It was connected to 2, and so I lose 2 because of it being disconnected and I've taken their capital, but then I get 1 from connecting to my own. That makes sense. And I get border growth, wonderful resources there. Speaking of which, gets me an easy park. Here I chop because I want to get up a navy and I know I can get a easy giant out of that using a sawmill. So looking ahead, often at the end of a perfection game or one of these challenge games, you'll be chopping a lot of forests that are unused. And in a game like this, when the resources are so abundant, I know I'm not going to be using everything anyway, so I may as well chop now if I know I'm going to need to chop at the end. If I was playing better, though, I'd know that I'd be able to use all the resources, and so I wouldn't. Got philosophy before capturing, which makes tech a lot cheaper. So I don't end up getting all the tech in the game, but that's one way I could play. And what I found very interesting is you can play a lot of different strategies and get the same scores, or similar scores. So there are games when it will be optimal to go fully for diplomacy. There will be other games where it's better to go for knights and take everyone out. Other games when it's better to get all the tech, so rush philosophy and do it that way, or get trade early on, get markets going. But it's nice to see that there are lots of different strategies you can explore that all give competitive results. Speaking of markets, I do go down that route, probably a bit too late in the game, but it's fine. Plus 4 stars from that. Probably should have played my killer monument here. I think I did that after I took border growth, I can't remember, but that would have allowed me to get a nice market there as well. So free spirit, mining, smithery, and do a bunch of eco things. Here I'm paying attention to the fact that I've gotten trade, so I'm wanting to get my 100 stars. So I know I want to be saving 41, or use those stars to get the stars per turn up enough that I can do that. So in the end, I end on 34, giving me 96, and then I think I just chop 4 times at the end. Also, I did rush through this a bit, but I got free spirit and disbanded the entire army, which, before getting free spirit, I was on 59. Yep, took me down to 43, and you'll see that when I disband everyone, then I'm on 54. Not exactly a profit, because I lose the points from that, but I know that I can invest those stars into getting more points and more parks anyway. Just doing classic eco things, and yeah, as I said, end in a position that I'd be on 96. There we go, 96. 4 chops, gets me 100, gets me the monument. And then just try and spend those 100 stars in the best way possible. So I don't have farming or construction, that was annoying. I was able to play mining and smithery, which really helps there with the forge. And didn't have this, I wasn't able to destroy any of my markets. But yeah, all things considered, I think that was a nice selection of techs I had at the end. So upgrade at the top. Get another connection, and then these 2 connections allow me to get the giant. I know I could have, not giant park. I know I could have done this with a forge anyway, instead of the 2 connections, but oh no, that probably was a misplay on my part. So yeah, here I probably should have focused on just getting parks. In the end, I paid 6 stars getting the 2 roads, 8 to upgrade it. Let's see that. Yep, and then 7 there, but 5 back. So total cost of 10 stars in upgrading this, but I did get the point for connection. So yeah, I get a score from that, but at the end of the game you should really be focusing on parks, so yeah, probably a misplay. I also stupidly get farming at the end. I should have done that before capturing here, chopped 4 times, and gotten farming after I got the monument, but it's fine, it was an afterthought. And say I'd done this on the Saturday, I could have seen, oh, that was stupid, played the exact same way and managed to get a better score. Then in this position, I'm on 40 stars. I think I have 2 monuments I'm yet to place. And I challenge you to look at this now and see if you can play any better than I did from this position. So what I end up doing is, in the south, taking population growth and using one of the farms to get a park. I do something similar here for a park, and then I see that I have 10 stars, 11 stars even. 11 stars, I look at this and see, can I get a park in both? Doesn't seem possible. However, I know I can get a park in one and then decide that it's better to get border growth in the other. Looking at this one will give me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tiles. This will give me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 tiles. Is that right? No, 8, because it would only go up to here. So I get 8 here, 1 more tile, so I decide to get the border growth here and the park there. Also chop the forest so I have enough for it. I took that into account. Border growth and 3 stars spare to get a rider, extra 15 points, bringing me up to 15,740. Yeah, pretty nice. And it's interesting that you can often get a similar score with a completely different breakdown. So I didn't play as many times this week, but in the past, sometimes I've played all 7 days and tried out a bunch of different strategies, all yielding similar scores, even with completely different breakdowns between the different ones. So good luck getting creative. Congratulations to Altor and everyone ahead of me. Shout out to Midjuan, maker of the game, currently in 11th place. I wonder if he's able to watch our replays and use that to help him. That'd be funny. Probably he doesn't, but it's a funny thought. And tomorrow I'll have a look and see, have I kept 18th place or have I dropped back, and by how much? Welcome back, everyone. Alright, we have big news. Statewide Trees topped the leaderboard in the last 5 hours, so taking gold and gold. But crucially, we've hung on to our 18th spot, so into the top 20, which I'm very pleased about. Now, it's actually Tuesday for me now, so I had a look at the replay and analysed it in quite a bit of detail yesterday, but didn't have time to record, so I'll go through that with you now. So turn 0, takes a workshop, exactly as we did. Though interestingly, he starts with the south animal first. Now, looking at the map as a whole, there isn't actually any difference in the way that the other tribes have played, so I don't know, perhaps because we're out of their vision, they won't make any changes to how they play. Perhaps it's just, in this case, all of those were optimal plays. I don't know exactly how it works, but I've certainly noticed that ruins and even their complete playstyles can have a huge impact by you making tiny changes. So in this case, order of animals didn't actually matter, but it is something I bear in mind when you're playing, because I have witnessed them making a surprising difference. Turn 1 hits as we did, although here he gets a warrior instead of getting riding as we did. So it means that he's ending his turn with 6 stars because of the meat for 3 with Amaji. But crucially, by the time he's capturing on turn 3, he'll have 14, and so we'll see what he goes for. And in this case, that's fishing, so it allows him to place a port and get a workshop early on, so 6 stars per turn. So what he plans to do with that port, well, we just have to wait and see. However, going back, interestingly here, he goes straight for the kill with the warrior. I think when I was in this position, I moved west first, and that gave me 3 tiles more vision. If I'd gone here, same thing, I would have gotten 3 more. So I don't know exactly why he hasn't done that. Sometimes you may want to purposely reduce your score for when you're meeting with an opponent, so they'll get fewer stars from meeting with you. But I've looked through and I can't see any evidence of this helping him out. Also, for yourself, you may not want to uncover more tiles so that you'll meet opponents at a delayed turn, so you'll get more stars from them. But again, I haven't actually seen this making any difference. I looked forward and he meets Hudrick on turn 6, which is exactly the same as if he'd moved here and gone the vision first. So don't know exactly why he didn't do that, but maybe this is just the way he played on the first day, and in subsequent days he followed that same pattern, tweaking things at the end whenever he saw fit. And I mean, if it works, it works. So turn 3, we've already seen him getting fishing, and moves his warrior forward. However, interestingly, he moves it back. So that seems counterintuitive. In my case, I was trying to push. I had several riders by this stage, ready to come in, take the weak Amaji City. For me, there was a rider there, I think. Yep, same for him. There's a weak rider there, and an empty city. But no, in this case, he moves it back. And I think his reasoning here is that it allows Amaji to ignore him, and they move in and try and fight Hudrick. And that works out really well for him, because the continent ends up being a battle between Amaji and Hudrick, and he's able to stay out of the way, build up his eco with a few cities, keep his tech prices down by not overly going for other cities himself, which bring tech up. And by getting on the water early, well, we'll see how this plays out, but it allows him to get more vision over the map, more meeting stars with other tribes, and let's see that in action. So he does indeed get sailing, moves into the ruin, and gets a double meet with both Kiku and Yadak. Now, I've mentioned meeting stars in passing a couple times, and I'm going to talk about that a bit more, so just so we're on the same page. Whenever you meet a new tribe, you get 3 stars default for meeting them, plus an extra 2 stars for every 1,000 points they have. And that's always rounded down. So in this case, both Yadak and Kiku were over 1,000 points, but not yet at 2,000. So he got 3 stars for meeting them, plus 2 for their 1,000, so got 5 from each. And that should be the case here. Then 1 star before moving, moves to the ruin, gets the vision, and meets both of them for an increase of 10 stars. 5 stars from each of them. So in this case, it happened on his turn. He moved forward, got the vision, and got the stars from meeting them immediately. However, you'll see you can also get meeting stars from meeting them when they step into your vision. Notice the Hoodrick warrior that steps into his vision. And so at the beginning of his turn, let's check what they were on when that happens. So as of the beginning of his turn, there are over 1,000, but less than 2,000, so he gets 5 stars. And yep, would have got 13, but we can see it goes straight up to 80, so that's because of the 5 he got at the beginning of his turn from that. Okay, back to turn 5, and then at the end he gets a connection which gives him stars in his capital. And gets a warrior. Oh, now we see on the info screen that he's given the 5 stars. Now, interestingly, at the beginning of this, he shot the 2 HP scout, and I don't know, I probably would have thought the intuitive play was to take the ruin, but the reason for this is that he gets a kill. I think that's his first kill. Second kill. Oh yeah, he took the rider at the beginning. It's the second kill. It does end up dying inevitably, but he does get the ruin, even though it's delayed by 1 turn. Then nabs Org, strategy, and sends a peace treaty to Hoodrick and Amanji. So both of the tribes in his own continent. So the reason here is to make peace with his neighbours, allow them to develop. I mean, Amanji have a knight, so he's not going to want to get in the way of that. Let them fight each other a bit, and just lets him have a relatively weak military, but think ahead and focus on eco instead. Then these peace treaties actually end up being rejected, but I do think that's kind of a good thing, and I'll explain why more later. So Knight does go in and do crazy damage, but thankfully to Hoodrick instead. And at this stage, I was trying to conquer the continent itself and then look out, so I didn't actually play any ports until much later in the game. But this has let him get on the water earlier for meeting stars with these tribes, and it's also let the other tribes do their own upgrades for him on the mainland, with peace as well, so stars benefiting both of them, which he's then able to go back and exploit at the end, since both tribes have been spending those stars. So really it's an investment on his part. So I've gone back to my game and had a look at the meeting stars that I got, and I actually met Hoodrick 2 turns earlier because of my riders which bounced in. But we both got 5 stars for that. He met both of these tribes on turn 5, I think, and got 5 for both. I ended up not meeting Kiku until turn 9, and that was when they came and met me. So I wasn't even on the water at that stage, but I got 7 stars from that. And then I met Yadak on turn 11, so very late in the game, again for 7. So I got 4 more stars overall from meeting bonuses, albeit quite a bit later. However, I did meet Hoodrick 2 turns earlier, and that was able to help me get some good eco going and a level 3 there early on. So there are certainly different ways to play it, and it's interesting to see how this completely different strategy is at the moment not looking like potential for world domination, but you'll see in the future how that completely changes. So just interesting to compare how those different strategies have paid off at this stage in the game. So turn 7, reveals the village, takes the ruin, which I think gives some stars, and moves on to this ruin, and then researches diplomacy. So when you get diplomacy, you reveal all the capitals of the other opponents, and then he establishes an embassy with Amanji and with Yadak. And then he sends peace to both of them. Now here I just want to pause, because before setting up the embassy, so he got diplomacy, he'd seen their capital, but when you get an embassy, you reveal all of the towers around the capital as well, all those 8 towers. He hadn't done that yet, and so Yadak, they hadn't actually met him yet, they were oblivious of his existence. So when he sent them the embassy, and of course you can't get an invitation for an embassy without knowing about someone first, so this triggers the meeting even though he hasn't actually met them within his vision. So as I said before, over 2,000, so he gets those original 3 plus 4 is 7 stars. Though here I think it's interesting because he could have sent the peace before. At this stage he had strategy, he sent a peace treaty to Amanji and to Hoodrick, but he didn't send it to Yadak. Now, from purely a diplomatic point of view, I don't think they would have accepted either. He probably would have got 3 rejections. However, it would have meant that they met him and would have gotten 5 stars instead of here getting 7 stars. Now, I think the reason being, if he'd given them the stars earlier, well, if we look at their vision, so maybe on turn 6 with 5 more stars, they could have gone Org, played a port down, been 1 pop away from upgrading. So, not game-changing stuff, but still, you don't want to be giving your opponents extra stars earlier on. However, the way that he did it, he gave them 7 stars, so 2 more. So I guess it can be justified. As I said, you're giving your opponent stars earlier, but also you're giving them more if you wait later. So it's a toss-up between the two, and it will be dependent on the circumstance which you choose. However, there's something I had no idea about that I only discovered when I looked into this further. Let's watch this from Yadak's perspective. They're just going about their business, and then all of a sudden you meet Bardor as he establishes an embassy. So they didn't know Bardor existed before. They get an embassy request, but of course you can't get an embassy request from someone you don't know. So the game triggers meeting, and it gives them the 7 stars then. So they go from 2 to 9. Now this is kind of confusing, because if I scroll along here, it says they're on 2 stars the entire turn. And that makes sense if you come from this side, on 9, plays a port, on 2. And so on the replay it shows being 2 the whole time. However, if I go to his next turn, it's added the 7 there. And then if I go back, then now it says he's on 9 the entire turn. So I don't exactly know what's going on. It seems kind of ambiguous. But the one thing that I have noticed is that it says it during the replay. It says it gives you a boost of 7 stars. And I think what this means is that whereas human players only get the stars at the beginning of their turn, bots actually get those meeting stars during their turn, which makes no difference at all to how they play, because you can't use those stars until your turn. But it does make a difference about the number of stars. So I think what would have been a better play here, if this is indeed the case, is for him to send the peace treaty before he gets, let's go back to... Okay, it's synced up again. It's weird when you switch between. I don't think the replay is super accurate when it comes to the stars it's showing. But I think at this stage, if he'd sent the peace treaty before getting diplomacy, he'd have been under 2,000. And I wonder whether that would mean that he'd get 5 stars that he'd give to Yadak instead of the 7 that he actually gets when he sends peace afterwards. So I'm not sure if this is indeed the case. And I think this is one of the brilliant things about MidU1 giving us access to the replays of bots, because you get an insight into their behaviour. So this is something I wasn't aware of before, and I suspect many pro players weren't aware of either. But it's wonderful that you're able to see the replay and see that they're given the stars there, or at least it says it in the banner. Now, I guess the only way people could have kind of worked this out before is seeing that it does say they don't know about you yet, and then as soon as you send the embassy, all of a sudden they have an opinion about you, so it says they think you're diplomatic, dominating and powerful. And that kind of makes sense. I guess that's the reason it's put in. I don't know if this has always been the case. Maybe when the diplomacy update came out, they added in the fact that they learn about you earlier, just so you can see their opinion of you and have more of an idea about whether it's worth it to send peace or establish embassies. But if it is indeed the case that you get the stars earlier, then here he could have put Yadak in a harder position had he sent it earlier, so he'd get 2 stars less, whilst at the same time removing the ability for him to use them earlier, as he would have done if he'd sent it on turn 6. So chance there for an improvement. And even that in itself is debatable. So in most cases you'll want your opponents to be on fewer stars so they're weaker, and if he'd sent it earlier there are chances that the opponents could have used them for upgrades and made it harder for him. But you could also argue that you want your opponents to have more cities in some cases when you know you're going to take them soon, and hope that they focus on eco and put you in a better position when you take their city. So being harsh on your opponents here is kind of a double-edged sword, because there are fewer stars that they can use against you, but also fewer stars in circulation. And the best perfection scores do occur when you get lucky. The opponents focus on eco more, and you end up being able to take them, and there's just more stars being spent on getting upgrades and parks, instead of wasted in just smashing into each other and attacking. Now I say lucky, but the wonderful thing about this weekly challenge is that it gives you the chance to look into the game, get better at the strategy, and also see things which aren't necessarily tied to strategy, but are just, they happen to work because of the game's randomness. And if you can exploit the game's randomness, then you can simulate what I'd normally call getting lucky in a perfection game where you don't know what's going to happen. So there's no definitive way to play, but I do think it would have been better if he'd sent the peace treaty before. Perhaps Yadak would have only gotten 5 stars from that, and then still get the embassy from him. Now a turn ago I promised that I'd explain why I think it was actually good that they rejected the peace treaties, and that's because he's sending embassies to both of them, it actually works out in his favour, and again this is going down the route of it's harsher on the opponents, and therefore in most cases that's better on you. But it's better to send peace treaties and embassies at the same time, in the hope that they get accepted, because if that does happen, on the first turn, they only get 2 stars, because the embassy is set up, they get 2 stars from the embassy being there, but they don't get the doubled 4 stars because of having peace yet, because technically they haven't accepted peace yet. They don't accept peace until after they get the embassy, so they only get 2 stars and you get 4 stars. Now this is the opposite. If ever you play multiplayer games, then you'd want to send peace a turn before if you can, so that you get 4 stars and they get 4 stars, because they've already got peace set up when they receive their embassy. But in the case of being harsh on your opponents, I think it's good here that Amaji didn't accept peace before, because it means that when they get the embassy, and they do end up accepting peace here, that they only get 2 stars, whereas he gets the full 4 because they've accepted. And when it comes to meeting stars, there's no fixed way to play, but it's just always in the back of my mind of, oh, if I send peace now or if I wait a turn, how will that help me, how will that hinder me, what will the difference be? You can debate whether that's a good thing or a bad thing for them to get stars earlier, but it's just always in my mind, and I think it's helpful to think it through. Alright, that was a lot of nitty-gritty strategy tips, so let's get back to the game at hand. So gets peace with them, and gets forestry from the ruin here, and uses those stars to get his first cloak. Yalak also accepts peace. And here, interestingly, he goes for a quite passive route, so playing a defender, and really juxtaposes the way that I, at this stage, was going around and had almost this entire continent. So at the end of turn 10, halfway through the game, well, maybe just over halfway if you count turn 0, and this was the state of his game, and this is the state of mine. So he was slightly ahead on score, but not by too much. He was on 17 stars per turn with just 2 cities, which is very interesting. So he's getting 4 from Yadax and 4 from Amaji because of embassies, and that plays a big role in keeping his stars per turn high, yet not having too many cities himself, and tech prices as well, because he's got high income, but techs don't cost much to penalise him for that. So turn 11 was actually a big turn for me. I ended up jumping to 3,910, which puts me ahead of him. He went up to 3,800 as well, so pretty similar, but I end up being on 23 stars per turn compared to his 20. So this state here doesn't show the full picture, because we were both having different jumps at different stages because of taking new cities, getting new upgrades. But just interesting to see how he looks at a much less developed stage here, but yet he's got his income very well sorted, and thoughts about the rest of the map, which he has vision on and is prepared to be taking in the next 10 turns. Then turn 11 is when we see Kiku, who is the only tribe actively at war with him, I think. Or maybe... oh no, yeah, Hudrik is neutral, so they don't like him, but they haven't actually attacked in the past turns. So Kiku get penalised for this war, they fall victim of a riot, and he gets border growth, and his first park. So, Perfection players will know this, but if you're coming from domination games or online multiplayer might games, then this may not be second nature to you, but you want to be getting a lot of parks at the highest level to get the highest Perfection scores. And you'll see him do this a lot. In fact, I don't think he gets a single giant. And that's exactly what I thought when I played my first game in the beta. I got all parks. However, when watching the replays of the top players, I actually noticed sometimes the top score did include getting a giant or two. Now, it will vary from game to game, so sometimes this is playing against crazy bots. I had a look, and the next week's, the current week when you're watching this, also is against crazy bots. But Mid-G1 doesn't always choose this, so we've had games against easy bots, against normal bots. So there is a time and a place for giants. I think I ended up getting one from my capital, sent it up and took a Yadak city earlier than I would have been able to otherwise. But depending on the situation and the map that Mid-G1's picked, often you'll want to be prioritising parks more. And it's nice that parks are actually usable now, because it was only until a recent update that they didn't give stars at all. It was purely a 250 points thing. So you'd only ever be using them in Perfection, and even then I found myself picking a lot of giants instead. So glad to see that they have a use now. Now on turn 12, he moves on to the ruins, puts the dinghies in the water, and he's just using the bare minimum to defend, which is really interesting. So he has both of his ruins ready, takes one and it gives him stars. Normally you want to take ruins right at the beginning of your turn. The only exception is to prime a ruin, so when you move a unit towards an area you don't want an explorer to go to. So that might be if it's like 4 tiles away, I think is the limit for when it won't generate an explorer. And so that could be to completely remove the possibility of getting an explorer in the first place. Or you could move it towards somewhere you don't want it to go, so you can send it the other way. So that's called priming a ruin. Another reason would be to get a better tech. And normally that's a gamble. You don't know that it's going to give tech in the first place. And if it does give tech, you have no idea which one it's going to pick. However, we're in weekly challenge games. And in this case, you do know. So I'm assuming that it's turn 13, it's Sunday, so he's probably played this game all 6 times, and he knows what it's going to give. He's got to turn 13, he's played the same way before, and he's probably tweaking the last turns as it goes on. So probably, on the Sunday, he's played this way before, and it's turn 13, so he knows it's going to give meditation. Which is what it would have done had he not bought meditation before. Yeah, exactly what I was talking about the other day, seen in action at the highest level. He knows it's going to give meditation, so he buys it himself, and therefore it gives him philosophy instead, which is a star better. Oh, but yeah, philosophy gives you the 33% decrease. So this would have been 6, 8, 10. So yeah, he spent 8 stars and got 10 stars worth of tech for it, so 2 stars better. Now, before I brushed over the fact that I think this only works for certain if you're going to be given a tier 2 tech, and so you get to give them the tier 3 instead. I don't know exactly how it works, but I imagine it's something like, okay, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 options for what it could be. So imagine this was blue, as it was before. And then it's done some big random number, it's done at mod 7, and it's happened to give this branch. then I guess it would be different if you buy a tier 1 deck. So say you know it's going to give riding. I don't think it necessarily means, okay, it's going to give roads or it's going to give free spirit. And even if it did, you wouldn't be able to tell which one. But I imagine at this stage, so let's say we're in the state we are now, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You know it's going to give riding. If you buy riding, now there are 7 options, and I don't know if it does do a kind of mod system, so divide some big number by mod 7. So I don't know, if you take riding, is it guaranteed that it will either give you roads or free spirit? Or I imagine it could just give you anything from that. But in his case, he makes use of the fact that he knows it's going to pick this branch, and instead of meditation, it gives him philosophy. So back to the game. Moves on to the village, moves in his dinghies to infiltrate. Gets some eco going here, and takes a park from it. And it's only now he plays his Park of Fortune. So he got his first park here ages ago, but it's only now he's playing it, and I guess he had no need to. So yeah, it goes to show, you don't need to play your monuments immediately, you can wait a bit until an opportune time when you can get a good upgrade out of it, so getting a park in this case. But yeah, do press your tiles every so often, just check that there's not a monument sitting in your inventory that you can play, because I do forget about them sometimes. On turn 14, he's beginning with 2 cities ready to capture, moves his cloaks, 1 getting him more vision. He's still yet to get 3 of these lighthouses, and then he gets riding, roads, and trade on this turn, and plays a market which is level 4. And the reason being, that's a level 4 sawmill. So the markets give you the... Oh, and he breaks peace with Amanji and Yadak. So yeah, markets give you the sum of all of the adjacent sawmills, windmills, and forges. So all of those tier 3 techs that you get population by using a tech in the level before. And breaking peace on turn 14, so he's ready to go ahead and kind of teases the fact that he's going to be sending in those cloaks soon. So Yadak get a giant, which turns out troublesome for him later. Sets a whole bunch of those cloaks going with infiltrations. And gets free spirit and chivalry. He places killer monument for stars. And a nice sawmill here for another part. So I want you to notice this little eye icon here, and that shows that there's a cloak in one of the 8 adjacent tiles. Now this wasn't actually in the original diplomacy update, and I think even after they updated it, it was only certain units, like maybe mindbenders I think, could see where the cloak was. But now I think it's all units can see, they get an eye icon to show you that there's an adjacent cloak. However, notice that none of these daggers have the eye icon either. So, knowing that it's in one of these 8 tiles, it can't be on the same tile as any of these 6 units. Where is the cloak? That's right, it's here. Then we're going to apply that same logic to the beginning of next turn. At some point in Yadak's turn, they moved their cloak. So we know it's not adjacent to either of these 2, so the cloak isn't here or here. And remember, this is a crazy bot. The reason we can tell it's a crazy bot is because... So notice on the more info, it says the difficulty bonus is 217%. Now, the multiplier isn't actually added, so on the leaderboard, these are all without the multiplier. This is just the standard 100% that you see in-game. But we can use the fact that it's 217. So go into a new game setup, tone it back to 4 opponents, because that's how many we have, and we see this matches. If it didn't match, we could tone back the difficulty and work it out. So if it's a 137 and it was 4 opponents, we know it was easy, but we could just keep on toggling this until it matches. So I think this week's is a 9 opponent game, and I'm pretty sure it's 234%. You can check that yourself. But use the number of opponents which is known, and then just tone this until the percentage matches, and that will tell you what difficulty the bots are. So back to our game, beginning of turn 16 I think. There we go. Eye icon here, this is water, so only 4 tiles around him. Not either of these, because otherwise these guys would notice that it was there. If this guy had an eye icon, we can use minefield tactics to know it's here. If all 3 of them did, then it's there. However, only this guy has the icon, so we know it's on the city or here. And this is a crazy bot. So why would you put your cloak on the city? Why would you put your cloak on the city? I don't know what they were doing there. I think they moved their giant and they were trying to defend, but why are you defending with a guy whose defense is 0.5? So I assume he thought logically and thought it would be there as well. So he moves there. Nothing. But it's fine, he's able to shoot and kill that, make space for the guy to come in, and then he enacts a siege. And apart from the 2 eyes here, there's nothing really to show that you've killed it. Like, if you watch the replay, it's hard to tell there was even a cloak there that you killed. But all of a sudden, Yadak are in a much poorer position, their giant is down to very low health. Gets the 3rd lighthouse. And another park in the west. And another market. Now, annoying Amanji siege to city there, but awesome that we see bridge, road, and knight comes in and takes. Then another road here, and 1, 2, 3, 4. That makes it 5, so that gets him his network monument. I don't think it actually showed in the replay, but he gets his network, brings it in, and takes the last city on his own continent. Daggers here, gang the giant, and completely wipe him out. Gets farming and construction, population growth, and another park. Now, funny here, we just saw Amaji and... Now, funny here, I think we just saw Amaji rejecting a peace treaty. So, interesting that I think that was Yadak in a last... It's interesting here, I think we just saw Amaji rejecting a peace treaty. Yeah, Amaji just rejected the peace treaty by Yadak. So I guess Yadak, in a last desperate clutch on to trying to stay in the game, sent Amaji a peace treaty, which is interesting how they actually got the vision to do that. Maybe they had an explorer. But Amaji hadn't actually met them at the time. So before this turn, they didn't know about Yadak. That's the unknown tribe. And then if I play this through, they get 11 stars from them. So I guess he sees the fires of doom in the background and realises this is an ally who's going to be very strong with him. But interesting that the bots actually help each other out in this stage and gift 11 stars to them, which they play the genius move. And by ramming and navigation, they're completely landlocked. They can't get to this tile here because it's part of this city, and they've got no chance of getting to the water. So what do? They buy ramming and navigation. Not even like upgrade this, which would help him out. No, ramming and navigation. So he doesn't actually capture the city now. I guess part of the reason is so that he can get tech first, which... So yeah, he had that for the whole of turn 18. Did he get any tech? He buys aquatism and navigation as well as archer and spiritualism. So had a chance to get 3 cities, gets 4 tech before then, just goes with a single capture, and allows him to get mining and smithery for a better deal before capturing this city. And this city. So you'll see he got 1 star per turn there, 4 stars per turn there. I guess if he had this earlier, he could have got an explorer, so that would have been 6 between them. If he had captured first before buying them, this is a tier 2 tech, so it would have gone up 2 for each city, so that's 4. And this is tier 3, so it would have gone up 6. So that was 10 stars he ended up saving, would have got 6 from stars per turn, so end up net gain of 4 stars. So better there to buy tech. Clear example of when you should buy tech before capturing. Gets a final explorer here. Reveals the final fog, so he has all vision over the map, and that gets him his I've Got monument. So here he's pretty close to 100. I guess the wealth monument is on his mind. He goes for a park, and 72 and 19, he'd be gone on 91. So, yeah, 98? Oh, it's because the animation takes a while. So at the beginning of the turn, he was on 91, and so in my case, I chopped 9 times, or 4 times, but I would have chopped Forest at this stage. He goes for disbanding his army, but in his case, he actually makes a profit, unlike me. So gets over 100, gets his monument, and then just some nice eco stuff here. Now watch this city here. Level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4 with a windmill, and uses that other farm to get level 5. Level 1 to level 5 in the space of a turn. That'll be another park here. And then he looks in the north. Level 1, level 2, level 3. Plenty of resources. What can he do? Already level 5. And a well-placed sawmill right in the north. Makes him go 1 better and get another park out of that city. Level 1 to level 6 in the space of a turn. Now he's getting pretty low on stars, so you may be wondering, what is all of this turn left? Now, 1 star, how can he be doing so much more? And normally at this stage, I'd stop. I didn't know that it was possible to do any more. He's got a forest here he can chop, a forest here he can chop, a couple here. I can't see any way of him doing any better, and that's what I would have thought. So I would have chopped and just got units out of that, and at least you get 5 points per star you spend on units. Let's watch that again. So he's chopping these forests, which makes sense, and then destroying a sawmill. I had never thought of doing that. So he only loses 5 points in this case. That's because of the 5 points from getting 1 population. The sawmill itself doesn't really have any value in itself, but it's the population that gives you the points. So loses 5 points there, 5 points there, and chops to get the stars back. Does the same in the north, where he just built the sawmills, and lumber huts, that's what I mean. Goes and chops the forests. Does the same here, and the only difference is that here you're losing 10 points because you get a population from the lumber hut and from the sawmill. But even so, worth it to get the stars back. Calculates that with these 10... 11, 12, and 13 here, he's able to spend them in this city and get another park out of it. Absolute genius. Now, I noticed that he's got another forest here, and he could go around chopping all of these forests and burning all of the lumber huts. But I don't think there's actually any way he can do any better and get more points out of it. The only thing I can see is that if he'd placed this gate of power here, he'd have space for a windmill. But to be honest, if we go back, I don't think he placed it. I think that was Amaji being stupid. Let's go from their point of view. Yeah, they place it before he even gets it. So that's not on him. But yeah, say that was his, then he could chop once there, burn a bunch of... How are we on 17? He could chop once there. Wait, how are we on 17? Yeah, I think this is the case about the replay being weird when it comes to the fact that we were just on Amaji's view. And chop a few more, so he'd need 12. He can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Leave all of these, still gets the 10 points from them. And then go 5 for a windmill, 5 for another farm, and 1 there would give him 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and get him another park. But yeah, that's Amaji's bad for playing a stupid gate of power there. I mean, to be honest, I think we did see that there was a animal under forest there, so they couldn't have done it at the time. But in this case, no more parks he can get, so better to leave the windmills as they can. A shame he can't use that star, because I think he ended on 0. If there was another forest, he could have chopped them both and gotten a warrior. But insane score, not of 2,000, but of 21,705. Gold in gold. So I hope that's been helpful for all of you to see an insight into the way that I played it as well as the top player played it. And best of luck in your upcoming game, which is a Yadak game with the skin. So I hope that my analysis and tips have been entertaining and useful for you. And I don't plan on making exclusively Polytopia content on this channel, but there will be plenty of that as well as other strategy games that I like. So subscribe for more videos of this type and to see what a fellow Polytopia player is also into. Good luck, and I'll see you on the leaderboard.